Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Yusril and welcome once again to the Tribble Timewarp. It is the 17th of April, just still the 16th for most time zones, and for today's video we're going to be taking a look at the new reputation track, the Nukara Strikeforce. This is working on pretty much the same basic layout as the Romulan and Omega tracks. You have 5 tiers, you get it by donating resources, or just flat out bribing the team. I don't know what it is about budget cuts in Starfleet these days. And as you get further up the track, you have access to newer and shinier abilities. So we shall start there. Right, so tier 1, we have Identify Vulnerability, which gives you 5% shield bypass in ground combat. Or you can go for plus 7.5% health. On the ground, so 5% shield bypass versus, let me see, about 40 extra hit points. Yeah, not too much of a difficult choice there. Tier 2, you get the same again, but in space. Yes, numbers are slightly different here. 2.5% shield bypass. Bear in mind that you already have between 5 and 10% anyway from standard shield bleed through. I can see that bypass being interesting in PvP if you're up against a target with resilient shields, because you effectively have an extra 50% shield bleed through, but I have to note that a large chunk of the tactics in space PvP is get your target shields down pronto, so we'll see. Alternately, 5% hull. Now, that is a little different in space, because space hit points are so much higher. That's basically a couple of extra torpedoes worth, so hey, on that occasion the health increase might actually be the better choice. We shall see. Alright, tier 3, what do we have? Emergency Fix. Chance to trigger hot and shield resistance when critically hit. Begins at 1% if you're at 100% health, increases to 100% so basically if you take a critical hit when you're almost dead, you go to you get a very nice healing buff. Now, what I have to point out is that if you take a critical hit when you're almost dead, you are dead. It's that simple. Now, it does ask the question of, does that include temporary death invulnerability, which would seem to be a required secondary power if you want to make best use of that, but hey, worth considering. Or that's the Cryo Immobilizer module. Again, this is on the ground, so again, it's a crit proc. I'm more inclined to go with the Emergency Fix, honestly, if only because that one is going to kick in and may save you. That one, not so much. Alright, tier 4, what do we have? Auxiliary Power Configuration Defense, Auxiliary Power Configuration Offense. Now, this is really interesting if you're running either a science vessel or a science-heavy ship of any other class, really. So defense configuration is if you're playing the pure tanking escort, tanking cruiser. If you've not really got much use for auxiliary power, just turn it over into something useful. Likewise, offense is a choice to your playstyle, really. You can either play to your ship's strengths or patch up a weak spot. Of course, if you're in a science vessel or a carrier running high auxiliary, then oh boy, that could be fun. And finally at tier 5, the Refracting Tetrion Cascade. Let's see, foes within 3 kilometers to a nearby target dealing something. Right, so the initial is a AoE within to everything within 3 kilometers, then it jumps. Now the question is, okay, so it jumps. So potentially you can, that's a very nasty AoE, because if I'm reading that right, there's a good chance that if you have 2 targets within 3 kilometers of you, and they're both within 5 kilometers of each other, then you'll send a pulse out to each of the original targets. Then they can send pulses to each other, and vice versa for the 3rd jump. Oh, that's nasty. I assume those numbers are because I'm not in space. I also don't see a cooldown, so we'll have to see what that does. Right, let's see what we get by way of options. Tier 1, Widow Fighter Pet. Shattering Harmonics environmental suit, shield and sword. Nukara elite environmental suit, shield and rifle. And reprogrammed drones. That could be interesting. Tier 2 Tetrion weapons, refracting Tetrion weapons. We'll have to see what those do. Refracting. Tends to suggest that there's going to be a shield bypass on those, but we'll see. Nukara particle converter. Have to have a look at that later. And the Nukara web breaker. Well, we have web breakers anyway. It's called tractor beam repulsors. Right. Sonic anti-proton weapons Mark 12 at tier 3. Those are the anti-tholian weapons we've had at Nukara for a while. Widow fighters at very rare level. Nukara crystalline shields, engines, deflector, as well as the Mark 11 faction sets. Okay, and what do we have here? Refracting Tetrion weapons again, purple Mark 12, environmental suits, very rare space set, web mine launcher. Oh, that could be fun. Want to get my hands on that. And finally, up on tier 5, we have the ultra rare fighter, ultra rare shields, hyper dual refracting Tetrion beam. Could you slam any more adjectives onto that, I wonder? And of course the Mark 12 very rare ground set utility drone vanity item. Attempt to ask why you'd bother. Of course, for all of this we need to get various bribes. Resource donations. So, expertise, antigens, medical supplies, fair enough. Nukara marks are obtained, as you might expect, through the various missions. Supposedly. At least that's the theory. As you can see, things haven't been updated yet. So we'll grab this. Mineral matters. Let's see if that's been done. Nope. Rescuing red shirts. Nope. In fact, it hasn't been done at all. So we'll run a couple of these, see what happens. The plan is that eventually the equipment boxes that are currently dropping on holodeck will be replaced by Nukara marks, but apparently that hasn't been put into the missions on Tribble yet. It's also worth noting while we're here that you have options to turn in some of the old gear. So there was the old compressed cryo launcher. That was of course an infinite level scaling item. You can turn that in for 50 marks and a smidge of rep. Ditto the suit and the personal shield. You've also got the traditional 50 marks for dilithium, so if you do want to carry on doing this after you finish the grind, it's not a complete waste of time. And if you've got the Mark 12 Lobby store items, you can upgrade them, or at least register them, so in effect, you know, I'm honestly not sure that's an upgrade. Would actually have to have the Lobby store item. Do I have? Yes, I do. Can I access? Yes, I can. Or we could just take a look. Ground gear. Crystalline nanofiber augmentations. That's what upgrades the Mark 5 set. So basically, if you've got some Lobby gear to dump, then hey, knock yourselves out. Right. So it looks like that's just a trade-in to get... I think it's the same gear, actually. It's just to standardise it onto the rep system. Presumably to save them from having to update multiple items later on. Okay, yeah, I think those are actually the same. Right, so yeah, you can upgrade those, get a few marks, and the item back. So that is that. Right, environment suits on. Let's go kill some Tholians. Right, so a lot of dead Tholians later. We have 2 missions to turn in. Commander, let's go talk to you. Temple displacement. So continue that. And continue that. So we have 2 Tholian equipment requisitions. Now, those were on short cooldowns, so that presumably is going to carry on when they redo the missions to change the rewards. Now let's find the boxes, see if this gives us marks. Nope. And... nope. Okay, so that would seem to be that for the moment. Alright, so the Nukara Prime Rep, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a while before I can give you anything more on this, because there's currently no way to get the Nukara marks. However, it does look as though this is going to be the new rep grind when the season... sorry, it's not a season anymore, it's an expansion hits. If you want to get an edge, then I would suggest hitting Nukara and getting hold of the various suits and cryo launchers. Even if you don't want to spend Lobby crystals on them, you can turn these in for the marks. And of course, if you do have the Lobby enhanced versions, then, well, you turn them in, you get the marks, and you get the gear back, which is very definitely a win. So, that for the moment is that, and I will see you next time.